Just a quick heads up before we begin. This video is purely for educational and entertainment purposes. It's not financial advice, and you should always do your own research before making any financial decisions. Have you ever wondered why your money seems to buy a little less each year? Why $100 today doesn't stretch nearly as far as it did for your parents or grandparents? It's a frustrating feeling, watching the value of your hard-earned cash slowly erode. What if I told you this wasn't always the case? What if the very nature of money was fundamentally changed in our recent history, setting us on this path of constant devaluation? To understand this, we need to go back in time to a world where money was very different. For a long time, the US dollar wasn't just a piece of paper. It was a promise, a claim check for something real and tangible. Gold. This was known as the gold standard. Under this system, the government couldn't just print money whenever it wanted. Each dollar in circulation had to be backed by a corresponding amount of physical gold stored in its vaults. If you had 35 US dollars, you could, in theory, walk up to the US Treasury and exchange them for 1 troy ounce of gold. The dollar was essentially a receipt for gold. This tether to a physical asset created a natural limit on how much money could be created, providing a sense of stability and discipline to the monetary system. The value of the dollar was anchored to the value of gold, a precious metal with a history spanning thousands of years. It was a system built on trust, but also on the physical reality of a finite resource. This created a predictable economic environment. The money supply could only grow as fast as the gold reserves, which prevented governments from recklessly printing money to fund their spending. But this system, which had defined global finance for decades, was about to come to a dramatic and abrupt end. The stage was set in the late 1960s and early 1970s. The United States was facing a perfect storm of economic pressures. The Vietnam War and extensive social programs, known as the Great Society, were incredibly expensive. The US government was spending far more than it was taking in through taxes, running massive budget deficits. To finance these costs, it was printing more and more dollars. Other countries, particularly in Europe, began to notice this. They saw the US creating dollars that were not fully backed by its gold reserves. They held vast amounts of US dollars, and they started getting nervous. They began to question whether the US could honor its promise to redeem those dollars for gold. So, they started doing just that. Countries like France and Switzerland began sending ships to the United States to cash in their dollars for physical gold, draining the US gold reserves at an alarming rate. This created a crisis. The US was on the verge of defaulting on its promise. On the evening of Sunday, August 15, 1971, President Richard Nixon appeared on national television to make a shocking announcement. In what would become known as the Nixon Shock, he declared that the United States would unilaterally and immediately suspend temporarily the convertibility of the dollar into gold. With those words, the direct link between the US dollar and gold was severed. The gold window, as it was called, was slammed shut. And that temporary suspension, it became permanent. Overnight, the entire global monetary system was transformed. The US dollar, and by extension, most of the world's currencies which were pegged to it, were no longer backed by anything physical. The era of the gold standard was over. A new era had begun. So, if our money is no longer backed by gold, what is it backed by? The answer is nothing. Or more precisely, it's backed only by faith and trust in the government that issues it. This is what we call fiat money. The word fiat comes from Latin, meaning let it be done, or it shall be. Fiat money has value simply because the government declares that it is legal tender, and we, the people, collectively agree to accept it as a medium of exchange for goods and services. Unlike commodity money, like gold, it has no intrinsic value. You can't use a dollar bill for anything other than spending it. Its value comes entirely from a social contract and the authority of the state. This new system gave governments unprecedented power. Without the constraint of gold reserves, central banks could now create new money out of thin air. Essentially, with a few keystrokes on a computer, they could expand the money supply as they saw fit to stimulate the economy, fund government spending, or bail out financial institutions. This newfound flexibility was seen as a major advantage, allowing for more active management of the economy. But this power also came with a significant and ever-present danger. This brings us back to our original question: why does your money lose value every year? The answer lies in the consequence of having a fiat currency system: inflation. When a central bank creates large amounts of new money, it increases the total supply of money in the economy. Think of it this way: if you magically doubled the amount of every single dollar in existence overnight, would everyone be twice as rich? No, because there would be twice as much money chasing the same amount of goods and services. Sellers would quickly realize this and simply double their prices. The result is that each individual dollar now buys less than it did before. Its purchasing power has decreased. This is inflation. It's often described as a hidden or silent tax. It's not a tax you pay directly from your paycheck. Instead, it slowly and quietly eats away at the value of the money you've already saved. The cash you've stored in a bank account or under your mattress is constantly losing its ability to buy things. For those on fixed incomes, like retirees, inflation can be devastating, as their income stays the same while the cost of living continuously rises. The government benefits from this, as it can pay off its old debts with newly created, devalued currency. But for the average citizen trying to save for the future, inflation is a constant headwind, making it harder to build and preserve wealth over the long term. Since 1971, the world has been on a massive 50-year experiment with a purely fiat monetary system, a system untethered from any physical anchor. The consequences of this shift are all around us, from the steady decline in the dollar's purchasing power to the boom and bust cycles that seem to plague our economies. Understanding this history is not just an academic exercise. It's crucial for navigating the modern financial world and protecting your own financial future. The rules of the money game were changed dramatically, and knowing how and why they were changed is the first step toward learning how to play. We've only scratched the surface of this fascinating and complex topic. The history of money is filled with incredible stories, hidden mechanics, and powerful lessons that are more relevant today than ever before. If you want to continue this journey and uncover more truths about the financial system we live in, make sure you subscribe to Money Mythos. We're dedicated to demystifying the world of finance and empowering you with knowledge. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.